Alrighty, so today we're going to talk about the other New York team in the season preview after we talked about the Red Bulls earlier, and that, of course, is New York City FC. So for NYCFC, it's been a bit of a quiet off season for them. They didn't really make too many moves. Yes, they do have a couple of key departure, but overall, they're kind of in some ways standing at this off season, and it feels like for the most part, they're kind of running it back heading into next season, pretty much bring most of the quarterback heading into next year. Although obviously we'll definitely get to the big elephant in the room in terms of this off season and the biggest need that they have to fulfill this off season that have yet to be fulfilled. And that of course is looking for a proper replacement for Alonso Martinez that is pretty much going to miss a majority of next year as well because of the torn ACL that he suffered back in October. But that being said, last season they finished with a 17-5-12 record and finished with 56 points. And by the way, did I say October? I meant November is when Alonso Martinez, of course, suffered that torn ACL injury during international break with Costa Rica. And then, of course, last year, they made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Final. I mentioned, last year kind of felt a little similar to when they won MLS Cup in 2021. They got hot at the right time, ride that wave all the way to the Eastern Conference Final, but then they met Inter Miami. So, yeah, when you meet the juggernaut known as Inter Miami, the evil empire, yeah, that of course is very much the end of the row of a pretty good unexpected run that NYCFC had made into the Eastern Conference Final and getting absolutely demolished against Inter Miami. The last MLS playoff appearance, of course, is 2025. The last MLS Cup that they had was 2021. Of course, they still have that bragging rights over the Red Bulls. The fact that they're still the only New York team to who win an MLS Cup, and despite the fact that the Red Bulls fans will always say, "Well, we're still the only New York team to beat you in the playoffs." NYCFC fans will always have that bragging rights of, yeah, but we also are the only New York team to win an MLS Cup. Speaking of which, look at the last five seasons. As I mentioned, they made it to the Eastern Conference Final before losing to Miami, but they finished with 17-5-12 record with 56 points. Previous year, they finished 14-8-12 and finished with 50 points. But yeah, as I mentioned, the Red Bulls does have the bragging rights of being the New York team to beat them in the playoffs as well. The only playoff game we have ever seen in this New York Derby and in this Hudson River Derby, as they lost them in the second round. That is now in 2023 they finished with a miserable 9-14-11 record and finished with 41 points. It's also one of the rare seasons that NYCFC did not make it to the playoffs. In fact, ever since this team came into the league in 2015, there's only been 2 years that NYCFC has missed out on the playoffs, the inaugural season and also in 2023 as well. But in 2022, they finished with a 16-7-11 record and finished with 55 points. And they also made it to the Eastern Conference Final once again, but this time they lost to the Philadelphia Union. And in many ways, that was a revenge game for the Philadelphia Union because in 2021, they beat the Philadelphia Union in the Eastern Conference Final to get to MLS Cup, and they took full advantage of it because they won MLS Cup 2021 against the Portland Timbers, 14-9-11 record, and finished with 51 points. So despite not really having what you call an MLS Cup kind of campaign kind of year when you look at the regular season, like I said, what I mentioned about last year, where I made a lot of comparison to the 2021 season because in 2021 they got hot at the right time and eventually ride that heat wave all the way to MLS Cup and eventually winning it as well. And I believe they're the only team going all the way back to 2016 when the Seattle Sounder won MLS Cup on the road against Toronto as the only road team to win. It's hard to believe that for the last decade of MLS Cup that we've seen, at least in the last 10 MLS Cup going back to 2016, only NYCFC is the only road team able to win MLS Cup. Every single home team has won MLS Cup ever since that, which kind of just once again emphasize how important home field advantage is in the playoffs and especially in the big game itself. Now, looking at some of the transfer, again, it's been a very quiet off season for NYCFC. Their most notable signing is Kai Trinwin, who they bought him from the A League in Melbourne City, another team that belong in the City Football Group, and then they also got Mac Learn as well. Most likely, it's going to be the backup to Matt Freese in that number one spot in the goalkeeping position. In terms of players that's no longer on this team, there are some key subtraction. The biggest one is definitely Justin Hack, him going to the LA Galaxy, and very surprised the fact that they decided not to re-sign him as well. Especially the contribution he had late in the season. I was kind of surprised they decided to let him go. They also lost Alex Rondo, Julian Fernandez, of course, going back to Argentina. And then they have a couple of players currently on loan. You got Jovan Mijatovic and Mitja Ilic. Both of those guys are currently on loan right now. Now, look at the first 5 games for NYCFC. Their first game is going to be in LA facing against the Galaxy before going on the road to face against the Philadelphia Union. Then they got Orlando City at home before playing against the Colorado Rapids. And then in Miami at home on March 22nd. Should be a sold out crowd. I believe that this game is going to be taking place at Yankee Stadium. But yeah, not a very easy schedule to start. They do face some really good team to start the season. And looking at the last 5 games, they play another LA team that is LAFC. So they play both LA team this season as well. I think they're the only Eastern Conference team to play both LA team as part of the interconference matchup. I might be mistaken, though, that is. But then they go on the road to face against Orlando City before they're going to be playing against Atlanta United at home. Then they play against Montreal at home, and for their final game, they're going to be on the road to face against DC United. So there are some tough games, at least in the first 2 of the last 5 games. But then the rest of the way are probably going to be very easy games to finish the season itself. Now, looking at the strength of this team, it's mostly the starting 11. I mean, we know that this is a pretty good starting 11 going back to last year as well. I mean, there's a reason why they made it to the Eastern Conference Final. Pretty much all part of the starting 11 is going to be back heading into next season, and with it being very strong, especially as the season goes along. I have the feeling the reason why things kind of finally clicked for this team is the fact that Pascal Janssen. It feels like he finally got it right when it comes to the tactics and also the game model that he trying to use. And this is the thing when it comes to new head coaches. I know we always see new head coach coming in, and sometimes they get it right immediately. I mean, we saw it with Mikey Veras, we saw it with Jasper Sorensen last season as well. But sometimes it's not always that way, especially with foreign head coach. And for Pascal Janssen, he was kind of under a little bit of heat, at least in the early part of the season, not really getting it right. But with him finally getting it right, it feels like he has now started getting the best out of the starting 11 that he has, and I think it's gonna be continue to be a thing heading into next year as well. Now, obviously, the biggest weakness of this team is definitely the lack of 9 position, and that's where we're gonna definitely get to the big question about this team. And honestly, there really isn't a lot of big question about this team. I know some NYCFC fans are not happy at the fact that once again heading into the season they're a little bit short on the depth chart, and I do agree. I think they might need to booster up the depth chart a little bit. I mean, as I mentioned before, it's always kind of a running joke that NYCFC always started the season a little short on their roster, and that they're a little late when it comes to filling out their roster. But obviously, the big elephant of the room this offseason that they still have not resolved in this offseason is to get a DP9 to replace Alonso Martinez. That's going to be out for the majority of this upcoming season. And they thought they got it. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, they thought that they got that guy from Schalke and Musa Celia. They pretty much almost announced it, and all he has to do is complete the medical. And he failed the medical. Or at least that's what we think it is. Because as much as they said that he failed the medical, there is some sources say that is just kind of a way to kind of cover up in terms of the fact that maybe NYCFC realized at the last second that they kind of got cold feet and saying, maybe this deal is not good for us. So we're going to back out at the very last second. Now, obviously, with that being done, obviously that is a huge insult to Schalke as well. Schalke was very upset when this, of course, was announced. Even though I know they probably have heard the news that it was a failed medical, I don't think they really believe it. I don't think a lot of people buy in the fact that he really failed the medical. There's got to be some shady business behind that. There's a reason why NYCFC decided to pull out at the very last second. So as a result, they're still looking for that DP9. And in case if they don't get that DP9 as the rest of the season goes along, well, now you're looking into maybe play a player in the false 9 position. And there are a couple of options that they have. Obviously, the number one option you could probably do is put Nicolas Fernandez Markel in that false 9 position. I mean, he can definitely play in that position as well, and he has demonstrated that he can do well as well. But he fits more on the winger spot. I think if you want to get the best out of him, you would rather put him in the winger spot than actually put him as a false nine position. And then there's Talus Magno. So a lot of YCFC fans are very excited to see Talus Magno back in this team. And by the way, I know some people will say that why did I not include Talus Magno in the in category? Well, he's only coming back on loan. I don't usually count transfer that is players that they bought for guys that is coming back on loan with this club. But it kind of does feel like a new signing for this NYCFC team because I think a lot of people, including NYCFC fans, were pretty shocked to see that Talus Magno decided to come back to this team. Nobody would have thought that his loan spell that he has is going to means that he's going to come back to NYCFC after it ended. But here he is back with this team and maybe get another shot in terms of proving himself after the last stint that he has before he gone on loan was a huge disappointment. And there's talks that maybe he can play in that false nine position, though. I think that was kind of a thing we kind of saw a little bit in his last stint as well, playing in that false nine position. He was not great playing that position. So yeah, that's an option that they of course might have, but maybe not a great option. There's even talk that maybe Hannes Wolf might be that guy, even though he's more like a deep line playmaker for this team. But yeah, it will be very interesting to see who, of course, put the false nine there. There's even talk that maybe Seymour Reed could be that player as well. And as talented as Seymour Reed is, I don't think he's ready yet. And really, you don't want to put too much pressure on the youngster to really be that guy that replaced the shoes of Alonso Martinez. I mean, that is a huge shoes to fill, and you definitely don't want to put a youngster with that still are just learning the ropes to be put in that spot straight away. And then last but not least, will this running back again means that they'll once again lead to success against this year. Normally, when you see a team runs it back, I mean, it's been proven that times it hasn't really quite worked out as good as it is in previous year. We've seen some team, of course, done it. We saw the Union done it for so many years, and now we've seen Cincinnati doing it for so many years, and they're kind of stuck in that mediocrity range in terms of never able to get it over the hump. Now, the good news, at least compared to those two teams, NYCFC at least kind of got over the hump of winning that MLS Cup, and that kind of puts them a little pressure off in terms of what's going to happen in the playoffs in the future. Though some might say that the pressure might be still on the fact that, yeah, I know they won it in 2021, but it would be nice if they can win it again relatively soon, especially when you look at this starting 11. It is definitely a team that, if they can get on a good run like they did last season, especially late in the season, this team can definitely challenge for MLS Cup and can be a surprising contender in the Eastern Conference. But for now, I'm going to say in terms of my prediction, I think they can definitely finish as high as third place, especially, if they can at least be a little bit more consistent heading into this season and not have to rely on a crazy run to finish the season. They can definitely sneak up as one of the top four team in the Eastern Conference. Now, in terms of low, I'm going to put them in eighth position. And mainly the reason why I put them this low is because, the goal scoring thing is definitely going to be a huge downside to this team. Again, I can't say that the loss of Alonso Martinez could really impact this team very 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 much without saying the fact that yeah, it definitely could be because he was really the offense for this team, and that's a huge loss to this team, not just in the last playoffs as well, but maybe heading into this season as well, which is again why it's kind of important for them to maybe get that DP9 if they don't want to have to face that situation of, well, maybe if we decide to maybe play a false nine. I feel like that's kind of like a cheap option, or as I would like to say, maybe a cop out kind of action that might not work as good as you actually get a high profile number nine that maybe is going to be there just temporarily until Alonso Martinez does get back to this team. And speaking of that, if this team does make it to the playoffs once again and maybe make a deep run, will there be a case where maybe Alonso Martinez can return by the end of this season? Remember, he suffered that injury late in the playoffs, around the same time that Ricky Puig, of course, suffered a torn ACL in the Western Conference Final, and there was a lot of talk that Ricky Puig was going to return last year as well. Obviously, it didn't happen because the Galaxy just completely failed him apart last season. But in case if NYCFC does get themselves into playoff contention and definitely go on a deep playoff run like they did last year, there would be could be a case that maybe that problem that they have in terms of getting that DP9 might not be a question after all, because you can always get Alonso Martinez back, and we'll see whether if his production is going to be the same after this torn ACL injury, because it's never easy to be back into your peak after just coming off of a torn ACL injury. But if he is going to get the time to recover, and if it's maybe even a fast recovery, there could be a case where we might actually see him by the end of this season, depending on where NYCFC, of course, will finish and what kind of run they will once again make in the playoffs. But there you have it. That is pretty much it. Talk about NYCFC in the season preview. As always, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this preview? And if you're an NYCFC fan, what do you think is the strength, the weakness, the free big question, and your prediction in terms of what the expectation is for this team heading into this season? But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.